Alright, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. So as promised in my last CSS video, I stated that ultimately we could make this into like a real website. So that's what we're going to get started with now. I figured we'd start with the navigation and then work our way down from there. So in this video, we'll be going over the navigation. So what we have right now is our basic site that we created in the CSS video. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, go ahead and check that out so you can be up to date on what we're doing here. But, you know, we just have a heading. We just got some text here, just a little description. We've got a book now link, and we've got an image, and we've changed our background color. And of course, all these items are situated in the center of our page, and it just looks really nice. So if we go over here, you can take a glimpse at the HTML. That's our H1 tag, our P tag, our A tag, our image. And then in style.css file, all we have is just a little bit of color, like I said, centering items, and then making the font size bigger, text decoration, removing that underline from our link, and displaying it in a block level and moving it over so it's in the center. And again, adjusting the height and the width and centering that image. Alright, so what we want to do first is create a header section. So within each page, there's a header, there's a nav, there are also like articles and sections, and there's footer. So we have tags for those now in HTML5. So it's best practice to actually use those tags. So the header essentially is what's going to display at the top of our page here. Now, I don't think there's any set standard that, you know, it has to hold a specific amount of things, but it's kind of like the header is what's going to be at the top of the page. So what I did was create a header here. And so it's got a left angle bracket and then a header and then a right angle bracket here as well. And then I closed the header tag using the closing header tag here. Now, like I said, indentation is important. So since I added that tag, I'm going to go ahead and tab this H1 tag over just so it looks cleaner. So we're going to keep that in there inside of our header. I think it looks nice there. And we're going to put a couple of spaces and then have our navigation. Now, there's a nav tag in HTML5, so we're going to go ahead and use it, right? Why reinvent the wheel if we've already got a nav tag, right? So all I'm going to do is do left angle bracket, the word nav, and then right angle bracket. And then I'll put some space here, and then I will do a left angle bracket, backslash, and then nav. Like that, to close the nav tag. So if we were to save and go over here and refresh our page, sadly you won't see anything here, but if we inspect element here, we will see our header is in this section. If we hover over the word header, and then there's our H1 tag, and there's our nav here. So our nav is currently empty because there's nothing in it. So let's add some stuff to our nav, right? So how I'm doing it is I'm going to make an unordered list of items to be our navigation. So how I'm going to do that is pretty simple. An unordered list is basically a list of items that have bullet points within them. So there's no certain order that these items are in. It's just a list of items that you want to list. In my case, it's just a list of navigation links that I want to go to. So I'm going to actually have to do a, you guessed it, left angle bracket. UL is an ordered list. And then I'm going to do a right angle bracket here. And then, of course, make some space. And then I'm just going to close that with a slash here. I'm going to close that space there. Okay, so now I have an unordered list, except we never wrote any text. So if we were to go over here again and refresh, you're not going to see anything, except now if you open up this nav, it's got an unordered list in it. But there's nothing in our unordered list yet. So let's make some stuff. So here we're going to do left angle bracket LI, right angle bracket, and then we're going to close that tag by doing a slash, and then that left angle bracket, or right angle bracket, excuse me. So inside here, before we can, well, let me show you this. So this is a list item. So naturally I'd want to put home here to be able to go to our home page. So if we go over here and refresh, you see home appears. Now, we're not able to click on home or anything like that. It's just a list item. This bullet point right here means it is an unordered list item. So it's an item in this list. Okay, and you can't click on it, you can't do anything with it, because all I did in my code was basically say, hey, I have a list item called home, and that's exactly what it did. It put me a list item called home here, which is essentially what I told it to do. Now, if we actually want to have a hoverable link over it like we do with our book now, we'll have to create that. So we can nest HTML tags within one another. So this would be nesting a tag within our list item. So how we do that is we just write an a tag. So let's do it. Left angle bracket A, and then we need that attribute href. href, which if you recall, that is the link that we want this to go to. Equals, and then we're doing double quotes here. And for now, let's leave this empty and we'll go back to that. And then we have a right angle bracket here. Now, we want to close this a tag before our list item closes. Okay, so we close our inside tags before we close our outside tags, basically. So we're going to do right angle bracket slash A, and then our, left angle bracket slash A, and then our right angle bracket. That gets to be a tongue twister every now and again. Okay, so inside of our href equals, inside the quotes, we're just going to put a hashtag there. So this hashtag is a dummy link, right? So this is just going to navigate us to nothing, because it's a dummy link. We use it when we want an A tag, but we technically don't have anywhere to go, right? For us, this dummy link has a hashtag because we're already going to be at our home page. So the home is going to be our header and our nav, that section. So that's why we're going to leave that as a dummy link like this. So if we save it, and then we look at our changes over here, it moved, and it moved because in my CSS, I have all A tags to have a width of 100 pixels and a margin auto left and a margin auto right, which is going to automatically pull it to the center of my page. Now, that's going to become a problem later on, but we'll fix that in our CSS. So let's go back to our HTML. And what we want to do now is what I'm thinking that we need is a home, an about page, and a book and a contact section. So these aren't actually going to move off of our page. We're actually going to have one page that has our home, our about, our booking info, and then our contact info. So instead of having to rewrite this over again, just copy this one. Make sure you understand it, right? So a list item is just an item inside of a list. That A tag is a link, and it's going to link to somewhere. And the text inside of it that we want it to say is not home this time, but we want it to say about, because it's going to be about our site. Okay, so we need another one of these, so you could paste it again, and a fourth one as well. So for the third one, instead of home, we want this one to say book, because this is going to provide the user information on how to book a beach vacation. So then home, you want this to say contact instead of home. And for right now, they're all set to dummy links, and we'll change that later on. So now I've saved it over here. Remember to save it or you will not see your most recent changes. And I refresh, and now I've got home, about, contact, and book. Now, as you can see, they've all got bullet points, okay? But they're all just, you know, centered on the page. And ideally, when we have a navigation bar, we kind of want it across and not vertically when we're looking at it on an actual desktop screen, which is what we're coding for right now. So let's go to our CSS and fix this. All right, so let's add our CSS. So let's go to style.css. Now, I said last time that CSS is cascading style sheet. So essentially, when we're adding our CSS, we want to make sure that it flows like our HTML page flows. So if we have a body tag here, we'll have a body tag up here, but then directly after that, any CSS that we have for the H1, we want right below the body tag. And then any CSS we have for nav, we want right below that. And so on and so forth. So the last thing we have in here is the H1. So let's go to the H1 tag. After the H1 tag, let us put our nav. And let's kind of see where our nav is. So again, if we are doing CSS, we want to grab the tag, the HTML tag in this case, which is nav. It's the tag, the ID, or the class name. I only have a tag, so I'm going to use nav, and then an opening curly brace and a closing curly brace. Now inside here is where I'm going to put my style for the nav. And all I want to do now is make a border. So I'm going to say border, I'm going to do 2 pixels, solid, and then blue. Alright, so if we save that, and then we go over here and refresh our page, we should see this blue border. Now, I just hand-coded blue for right now. I actually have a color in mind that I already want my border to be. And again, if you want to go find yourself some colors, in my new tab over here, you can do, this was the one that I was trying to get to. So let's go to a new tab. Let's search color hex codes. And then it'll list several websites that you can get hex codes from. Just pick one that you like. And if I wanted a blue color, click up here. Oops. That's like a greenish color. Yeah, you can kind of pick that one, or you can kind of keep going down here and find another blue that you like, and then use this as your code that you put into your CSS over here. So yeah, that's how you do that. I'm going to close out of that. So for right now, I've got the code I want, and it is hashtag 072798. So I'm going to save that and put it over here. And it's this darker blue around here. So it darkened it up just a little bit. So now that we know where our nav is at, what area our nav is located in, let us go ahead and do some styling for the unordered list and the list items in the A tag. So let's start. I told you that cascading style sheets. Now, if you have a nav, you could essentially, if we're styling for our unordered list tag here, we could essentially do this. However, it's going to get to be a little too much after a while. So what I like to do is I like to tab over, and that way we know everything inside of this section right here is going to be for the nav as well. So we have our main nav, and then we have our nav UL styling here. Just a little simpler. So let's change the width of this nav, the unordered list, and let's just say it is 378 pixels. And margin left, and again it's just auto, and then margin right, and that is auto as well. And that should center it with our width size. Okay, so again, that's just going to bring in these unordered list items here. What we really want to do is do list style type, set that to none, and that's going to remove our bullet points from here. And then let's see what else we could do. Let's work on these list items. Okay, so if I want to have the A tags to be in one line, I'm going to say UL, LI, and then A. I personally like doing this because it helps me keep track of where everything is and how to get to everything. So I'll display and then inline and save it, and when I refresh, it's not doing it. And then let me see if I have to nav ULLI and display inline here. Alright, here we go. So what I did was display the list items inline and display the A tags inline. And that was able to get me to where all of my items were horizontally in one line. Okay, now the next thing I want to do, I'm going to go back up here to the list items, and I want some space in between these items. I don't want them right on top of each other. So I did padding left, and padding is going to give me space within each of these list items. So it's not outside of it, it's within it. So let's do 25. And again, hopefully you've got your inspect element tab open, and if you go in here, this is the actual tag here. This is the list item, and then this padding is going to be what we specifically did padding left. So it's going to be on this side, and it shows you the 25 that we do have. And it's also highlighted up here where the home tag is. So that also gives you an idea of where your padding is at. So it basically just created some padding for each of these. And if you click on it, you'll see that same list item padding kind of highlighted off to the left there where it says LI and it has that arrow. So that's also where you can able to see it at. But yeah, if you do this, it'll kind of highlight the sections around it. I kind of didn't want to do the margin just because I don't want it to be outside of it. I'd like to just have space within each of those list items. Okay, so after I've got my margin left, or my padding left, excuse me, I'm going to work on making these A tags a little bit bigger because they're kind of small and I ideally would like them to show up just a little bit bigger than what they are. So let me go down here to where it says nav UL list item A. And I'm going to change the font size here. And the font size is just going to be, let's try 15 points. 15 point font. I like using points for my font. It's because pixels can get a little bit grayish. So yeah, that makes it bigger, of course. So now we've got 15 point font. So it's looking good. Now, if we want to go back here to our style sheet, well, let's look at our page here. For me, I personally am going to go back and do some more styling. So what I want to do now is I have this border around my nav. Now, I have it around my nav for a couple of reasons. I want to be able to see where my nav is so I know where I'm at on my page. But another reason is because I actually want this border to stay there because I'm going to actually change the background color of my nav area. And when I change my background color, I'm also going to change these the corners of my navigation as well so they're not as square. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my nav. So just the nav section here. This is what I'm about to fix here. So right now it's got that border on there, 2 pixels solid, and it's got my color, that dark shade of blue. I'm going to enter and then go on the next page. I actually want that shade of blue to carry over to my background color. Now, this is when styling gets exciting because you can kind of go crazy with your colors and what you want to do with it. I just copied what was here and put it here because that's the same color I want. But yeah, you're able to style it and go crazy with it and just be your creative self. So you don't have to do specifically the colors I'm doing. But this is basically meant to kind of give you a first-hand shot of like how a web page is going to be looking. So let's refresh, and now we see we've got that background color blue, the same of our border. And because it's the same as our border, it blends in nice, okay? That's another reason that I like to do that. Now, another thing that I want to do is I've got those square edges that I was talking about before, those square corners, and I just want those to be a little bit more rounded out. Well, a lot more rounded out, just so it doesn't look very boxy like. So I'm going to use border radius, and border radius, get done typing it, border radius is going to round our corners based on the amount that we give it. So I'm going to do mine 2 pixels, or 10 pixels, excuse me. So I've got 10 pixels. So as you see right now, I haven't refreshed my page here. I've saved my styling, but I haven't refreshed it. And as you see here, they're still square. So I'm just going to refresh these. And they became much more rounded. And to me, it looks much better than the way it was. Now, if you want, you can go into your inspect element here and find your nav and play around with the border radius and kind of get it the way that you'd like it to be. Of course, the lesser the number is, the less rounded it becomes, and the higher the number, the more rounded it becomes. So it's kind of just depending on what you'd like to do. So again, inspect element is a great thing to use to be able to experiment with CSS and kind of see how it's going to look on your page. Okay, so with me doing that, it looks like I can't see the words now. So my links are this purplish color because after you A tag links, when you click on them, become this shade of purple, as you could see. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fix that because I do not want that to look like that. So I'm going to go to the A tag here. So I've got nav ULLI A tag. And if you notice, I also have an A tag here. Now, this A tag is going to be just an A tag on a page. I use nav ULLI A so it knows exactly what A tags that I want to have this specific styling. So let me do color. And I want it to be white. I think it's 000. So actually 000 is black. So FFF is white. So you could do black, but that's a little bit too dark for me, especially since this is a beachy theme. So now it is white. So I've got the white text here for my list items. I've got my rounded borders here. I got this blue background. Now, I didn't include the color for the H1 up here just because I felt like it'd be a little bit overkill, and I didn't want it to look like that. I didn't want it to, this background to kind of overflow into here, so I just left it alone. So this is what our navigation looks like. This is what our heading looks like. We might go back and change this color later, but for right now, this is what our page should be looking like. So I hope that you've learned some new styling items, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. We're gonna get started with the second part, which should be about the About Me section. So I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye.